Good evening, everyone. One moment, gentlemen. Hey, I think you get it all prepped up and it doesn't quite turn out the way you want it to. But we're getting in there. I'll get the hang of this stuff sooner or later. Sure, we got the correct chat in here as well. Good evening, everyone. All right. So I'll let people start to trickle in bit by bit while we get everything together. Yeah, it goes on Odyssey just fine, but still getting the hang of YouTube. Anyway, hello. So, AI art. What we got on screen, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Might be able to get some guests in. We'll see if anyone is able to pop in. We actually do. All right, let's get OK Lord on stream. Welcome.
Hey there. Maybe I'm glitched, but I don't see a stream on YouTube starting.
Yeah. One sec. I'll show you the link to this stream. When I went it through StreamYards, it went to a completely different stream rather than
Oh,
using the one that I set up.
yeah, that's why I can look at chat.
Second this on Discord real quick. Yes, Hermit.
Oh,
Welcome,
so
welcome.
funny.
Lego Mago, Pap, welcome. ZK. Yeah. Oh yes, welcome.
There we go.
So, yeah, add you in. Are there too? There we go. So AI art. There's a lot to dive into on this. We may end up having more than one discussion. One thing's for sure, this tech isn't going anywhere. So like it's changing things. It is without a doubt going to change the art industry. And more than a few people have complaints about it.
They can suck it. It's been in the industry for many years. It's just they're not aware of it.
Well, I actually wasn't aware of it. Could you go into a bit more depth on that?
So, I give it an example. Who here has heard of the Unreal Engine?
Well, I use it for a whole bunch of stuff, so yeah.
Yes. So, believe it or not, you can just give it some plugins, and I'm pretty sure it has a dedicated one where you can just put some frames, like for example, fire, and it will fill in the frame. That's AI. And that was like about 5 years ago where that was implemented, if I remember right. But I can go even more back than that. We can think about, let's see, the anime industry would be a good example. Remember when you started seeing that 3D art and all that? They tried basically using AI to basically try to make that little filter a little bit better. And they got better over the years, as we see. And that's AI in progress. And basically what they do is they put a static input and they try to confirm, okay, did it work or did it not work? And then eventually it becomes more dynamic, meaning the data is a lot more perspective.
Well, I guess on top of that, there's been AI, especially in a lot of animation, to I think interpolate. I've seen some videos going around where they take very choppy animation or even some old school stop motion animation and they reinterpolate it so an AI kind of fills in the gaps and tries to create a smoother experience.
Yeah, actually, it's mostly algorithm. Well, that's what is AI, but it's more of an algorithm. Like, for example, uh, I may sound really old saying this, but remember when we used to play the Super Nintendo on those big, giant TVs, and then all of a sudden it looks kind of weird on modern LEDs?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've had that.
Yeah. So there's actually a algorithm that you can put, and it's a program that takes it and tries to make it sound, or well, sorry, not sound, look similar to the old style because those old giant TVs, CTVs, I think they're called.
Hmm.
Oh, CRTs. There we go, CRTs.
Yeah, cathode ray tube, CRT.
Yeah, the ones that literally have nuclear explosions. Yes, that one. Yes. So basically, that technology has been there for a long time, and technically speaking, that is an AI. I mean, it's a very basic one, but as time progressed, we got better and better. And a lot of the technology that I'm seeing now, like I was seeing Chronic stream and seeing him. No, not him. So I think it was you playing with it, right? I
Well, the
think you
stuff
were
that
playing
Chronic
with
was
it.
putting up, I think he just grabbed it from somewhere else. That was using the AI program Stable Diffusion.
Okay. I haven't played with it, so I'm not 100% sure how it works, but I have a good idea how it would work. You just put some parameters and some images to train it, right?
Well, to a certain extent, because there's two stages to it. The first one is the training of it, where you put in a shit ton of images, I assume with a whole bunch of different tags on top of it. I haven't actually seen too much of the training process, but it involves feeding in thousands upon thousands of images as reference.
Okay. So that's the
And then,
input.
yeah, and then in order to actually make it, well, then you type in a variety of different parameters. So the image that you're seeing on the background, I actually just generated. And the parameters were robot artist in a clockwork world, wires in back, painting in a dark room, highly detailed, warm palette, dash dash, aspect ratio 1920 1080.
I have to say that's really impressive. And you're speaking to someone who has sold art for almost 2 years and did accounting for artists, like in actual wholesales. So that is very impressive. I'll be honest, this is way better than most artists. And trust me, I see many artists.
And that's the thing. That's why people are getting so annoyed with it, because for quite a number of artists, this has outright replaced them. Like
No,
this is,
they're
well,
over exaggerating.
um
Maybe online, yes, but not when it comes to physical.
oh, well, that's funny
I
enough.
know
Here's
it's more
like,
complicated.
and that's what we're going to get into, the depth of exactly how people are replaced and what exactly it's replacing. One of the complaints I've
I
been seeing about this is that AI art has won art contests against actual humans.
Well, I'm gonna be very honest. Most artists suck. Like, I'm sorry. You guys were talking about it with Chronic. It's I heard about it. A banana? Are you serious? Did they put a
Yeah.
banana?
No, and that's the thing. It's like you're not complaining about the AI. You're complaining that the people who dictate art contests have no taste or respect for craftsmanship. That's been a problem for a long, long time. If you, as an artist, just now realize that the people who run art contests have no taste and prefer high concept stuff to actual craftsmanship, yeah, well, welcome to the club. The rest of us were here at least a decade ago.
Yep. And I just put in Discord. Don't show it to chat because that can get me DOS or whatever. Um, that is some of the art that I've used to work with artists. And if you look at them, they're very similar to the AI art you made. I can tell it's somewhat AI if I really look at the art, but I'm pretty sure someone is going to put this up. Well, someone can just fix what the AI messes up, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
going to speed the process of art.
let me just hide the background here because I'm not entirely sure whether this will pop up where I click it.
Yeah, I just don't want them to know the name of the company because that's the company I work for.
Yeah.
But a lot of that art, and I even know one of the artists is personally very good artist, and she's going to do just fine. Uh, People
Uh,
like the experience, and that's the whole point of basically selling art. It's the experience. That's why I think a lot of these artists or probably beginners or amateurs that don't understand the industry. It's all about the experience.
it's artists who have time to complain about this kind of stuff on the internet. So,
That says a lot.
yeah. But then there's there's some I haven't seen in detail, but some who do actually have a lot of skill and they apparently don't like it. But I don't want to misrepresent them, and I haven't heard their arguments in depth, so I can't say for sure.
It's understandable. I mean, some people, well, a lot of artists are old at the moment, the good ones, so they maybe don't understand it and what's going to be replaced with it. My opinion, based on what I'm seeing, it's not going to replace artists yet. It's going to speed up the process of doing art and certain things, just like what happened with certain industries. One industry I can think of right now in that progress would be truckers. They're trying to make AI drivable trucks. The problem is it still requires human input because, well, problem is if the GPS doesn't work, it has to rely on the cameras. And if it has to rely on the cameras, oh boy, the chances of error dramatically increase because I did research on that on Tesla for fun, and holy shit, would I not rely on Tesla? Do not. That
No,
thing can easily kill someone by accident. I'm being dead serious when I say that. It
no,
is
that's
not reliable.
that's the thing. Automation. I guess the thing we gotta kind of separate like automation versus AI work. When it comes to most stuff in the physical world, an AI messing up has extreme consequences. And this is, I think, where it's not suitable for a lot of the physical world, but it works quite well for this kind of work, this digital artwork, especially because an AI doesn't know when it's doing something wrong. It
Yet.
is fearless. Like you take
Yet.
no, that's the thing. When an AI makes, I mean, AI by its own metrics cannot make a wrong decision. It can make decisions that people disagree with, but in the moment, it doesn't realize that it's making those decisions.
Now, are you talking like in a binary or analog?
Um, in, I suppose I'm talking binary here. All right, so like let's use this image as an example. Um, so that's probably a table in the foreground, right?
Yeah.
But the more you look at it, you can tell this is a weird mashup of tables. Like it's not one unified idea. I can tell you right now, no human artist would ever think to make a table that looks like that. It would be wrong to them, deeply wrong.
I see. I think I understand what you mean. Like it's a binary choice. Therefore, it's going to make a choice that it's going to be right that it believes without the input of a
Yeah,
human. So in other words, it thinks, nope, that's right. No need to clarify until you tell me after the consequence.
precisely. So it will put this abomination of a table out there, and it won't care. But if you took that in isolation and put that in front of anyone and said draw a table, like you could take 1 billion humans, say draw a table, like they would never come up with this. Like
I would agree.
from those amateur to the most professional. And then you look at some of the other details, these probably stool like things. Many of these wires, like, yeah, you get the concept that they're wires. They don't go to anywhere. Even this robot, what's it standing on? Is this arm even attached? Are these random lights coming out of anywhere? Like, a human would never think to make this and put this as a completed piece.
So
But an AI
base
doesn't care.
well, it depends on the type of AI. Well, I'm thinking very futuristic with stuff that I've worked on before in the past. There's two types. I call it two types of AI computing. There is binary, which is very obvious, it's zeros and ones. It has to make a decision no matter what, and it's almost 100%. There are exceptions to the rule, but you should always assume anything that's running binary will always have a conclusion to its answer. So it's a whole bunch of if statements, as I can oversimplify it. If this happens, do this. And it's this whole series of it. And that's what's happening right here in the image, probably. Most likely, this is going to be binary type of AI. It has a whole bunch of sequences of basically, hey, do this, then do that. And that's why the art looks pretty decent, but it's not as accurate. Now, when it comes to analog, that's a different story. And analog will be far worse because the technology is not there yet. But the reason why I like to mention about analog is because this is very new in technology. I think they've been developing this for recently for the last 7 years, and it's specifically for AI only because analog can produce way more computing power than binary types of
And
system.
when you say analog, are you referring to neural networks?
Not really, but you can think
Okay.
of it like that. Analog, like literally like different levels of electricity. So, for
Hmm.
example, instead of having input zeros and ones, an analog can have multiple inputs. It can have a 1, 2, 3, 4 based on the voltage. The problem with
Hmm.
analog is that they tend to have errors. Like there is going to be a margin of error. So sometimes the machine will make a mistake in its computing. And that is actually a pro, not a con. But it is a huge con when it comes to normal day stuff. Like imagine you get like a 0.001% error in your software. Unfortunately, that one error can destroy your current software because everything's conditional. Everything has to be almost 100%. But with analog, you have like a 95 to 90% chance of it being right with calculation. Therefore, any normal software will crash unless it's designed for it. And even then, the analog is still using, technically speaking, a binary. It's using a binary to run it to get a calculation, and it's hoping to assume it's correct. So
I
that's a
think
big
that
hurdle we have
I
to
think
deal
that
with.
does fall under the neural network guidelines because neural networks use various weights to create their binary decisions.
Kind of. It's more like actual natural. It isn't more of like if statements. It's more of kind of like a probability. And the reason why it's possible is because it can make mistakes.
That does sound a
Like
lot
for
like neural network AI.
it is, but the difference is actually no. I'm incorrect. You're right. It depends on how you're using the computing. Are you using binary, which means it's going to be a condition and you have to rely on randomness, which, by the way, randomness in binary is very difficult. You got to use a prime number to do that. Or use analog that has natural error in different probabilities. So
Hmm.
analog is more natural, binary is more if type of statement. That makes sense.
Uh, let me get an image up here. You can look at on screen, see if this lines up. This should be able to see it on screen in a second, but this is kind of similar to, this is basically what a neural network would look like.
I mean, that's like the architecture, right? Let me see. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the architecture of it. You can have either binary or analog. They both do the same.
All right. Yeah. So it is along the lines of neural networks. Okay. Just trying to make sure we're talking about the same things here.
Yeah, my apology. This is referring to the architecture or the design. So yeah, it is a neural network, but when it comes to computing, it is different. You have to consider the randomness and the type of static input and also dynamic input. And with binary, it's going to be an if statement, which means it needs a lot more input. But with an analog, with that architecture, it won't require as many, but it will make more mistakes, but it processes a lot faster.
Well, this is actually something that I like quite a bit about Midjourney, because this was not the singular final image that it pooped out at the end of it. It actually put out these images initially out of the four, and I picked one to upscale based on this. So, like, unlike some of the other ones, you can see a lot of different variations with how it's interpreting what you say. And even then, this is only on the one seed. that was randomly generated when you like tried this out. I can hit a refresh button and go through it over and over and over again.
How big is actually I forgot to mention this. Is this a program that you have on your computer or this is by the browser?
This is a Discord bot actually.
Oh no, I mean for the AI art. Oh, so the AI art is work with Discord? Sorry, I
Uh,
haven't used the tool, so I don't know.
yeah, no, I have a Discord bot that I literally just type a command and the prompts into, and it's what gives me out the images.
Okay, so actually this changes it. I thought it was like local on your computer and you're doing it. It has a huge, massive database where someone's already did the work.
Yeah, someone else has already fed into it thousands upon thousands upon thousands of images,
No,
and
it's
that's
literally millions. It has to be millions to have this type of result.
probably yeah, like millions of images.
Oh, I was hoping it was local. If that was local, that would be impressive for 1,000,
Oh,
because that's
oh
like
god.
less than what? That's like less than a few thousand generations. Something like this requires literally billions of computing power of cycles to produce something like this at some point.
Yeah. No,
That's very impressive still, regardless. But
yeah, no, the tech's impressive and the results, like they look a certain, like they look great, and you can go even further with it. So like, if I take this exact same prompt that makes these, pop it into here, and then I just add one detail. Let's say if I add pencil, I might be able to get it done as though it was hand drawn in pencil rather than this is kind of Midjourney's default sort of painting style.
ooh, show me one because that is a big deal in the art industry. Because having line work already done pretty much saves a lot of people's time, and that's going to have less people in the industry overall.
There's and there's a lot of variation onto this. Like, while technically, like, I'm going with some of the arguments I've heard against it, such as from this particular channel. We'll actually listen to this video from Rev Says Des. Normally, I like Rev's stuff. Like, pretty good head on his shoulders, really knows how to make a whole bunch of good content in a short period of time. But is also generated an interesting discussion behind all this.
Oh,
So,
luckily, I believe I watched this. Yeah, I watched this, but I guess everyone else should hear it.
yeah, so yeah, we'll just play this through for everyone real quick.
Hey, what's up guys, Rev here. So there's been a lot of discussion over the past few weeks about AI generated art, including questions as to whether it should be even considered art in the first place. After all, the process of creating AI generated art is as easy as tossing a bunch of terms and references into a blender and waiting for the result. Almost always done without the permission of the artists they sampled. And it's so easy, anyone can do it. Even random users have been taking advantage of the technology to create their ideal Frankenstein waifu by combining their favorite prompts. There's even apps that'll let you do it for free. And whether it's artists, random users, or sketchy tech bros, use of this technology has skyrocketed over the past weeks, leaving many concerned about the impact it'll have on various communities. And in a surprising but welcome twist, Hololive's Mori and Kiara made their stance known about AI-generated art through these tweets posted yesterday. Mori tweeting, "My art tag is for originally created artworks only. Therefore, I want to request that you don't use it for AI art. Thanks." And as you'll see, Kiara would go even harder tweeting, "As there's a rise in popularity for AI created art, I want to request everyone who makes use of these functions to not post their AI created art in my art hashtag, as it might be hard to differentiate in certain cases, and I would only like to see originally created art there. Seeing the AI art is cool and many of them look nice, but I use these fan arts for thumbnails and other stuff sometimes. I want to be sure that what I'm using is real, so please understand." And if you still weren't convinced as to where Kiara stands on the issue, she responds to this user likening AI generated art to standard fan art, stating, "Are you saying a human using a character design as a reference to draw something from scratch with the skill they acquired over years by practice versus a computer throwing together random existing unrelated art without the artist's permission is the same? Hello, base department? No, but in all seriousness, her initial tweet and other replies made a lot of people happy, making it clear how she feels about AI-generated artwork in regards to her own community. And while I'm sure there's some honest application of this technology, if an artist or a content creator states that they're not okay with its use in terms of their content, that should be a full stop for everyone. But that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know your thoughts about this technology, as well as Maury and Kiara's tweets in the comments.
Alright. Wait for the video to catch up real quick. As we get into some, because there's some interesting points brought up. Now, on the whole, like, I agree with the conclusion. If a specific person says, hey, don't use my art tag with AI art, that's fine. That's their choice. But there was that point where comparing someone using a model as reference and then drawing with their skill to an AI art throwing together a bunch of images without the artist's permission, that's where things get interesting. Because why does the AI need the person's permission? Because quite frankly, if you have posted your art anywhere on the internet, you have given permission for it to be used by anyone. Like, yeah, if they take it, screenshot it, and put it on a t-shirt and sell it, yeah, they're violating your copyright. But that's about it. An AI is not spitting out someone else's copyrighted work. It's altered. It's an amalgamation. And quite frankly, it's not as though someone just looks at one singular character reference and then goes, oh, well, now I will draw everything else completely out of my head without looking at a single other image. No. You reference stuff. You create... Geez, I've been wanting to pull this up. You create things like a mood board. Here, let me get this on. Hey, by the way, okay, Lord, you there? If I'm not hearing you,
I'm here.
Okay, cool.
I'm just waiting for, a reason to talk.
Yeah. All right, let me just add quick window capture here. Don't know why showing. I guess it doesn't like pure ref for some reason. All right, but
Basically, you're talking about like references, which is inspiration. I mean, imagine anytime you get inspiration, like, oh, that's like Berserk. You have to downvote it or something like that.
of this piece, I like this particular bit of architecture here. Oh, I'm gonna go use this piece of photography that I didn't take because I just used Google image search to understand what this looks like. Imagine having to cite every single source and credit that. No artist would be able to get anything done.
Also, how you know it's unconscious. I've made art a long time ago, not realizing it was someone else's, or by coincidence. It's just something that's just unreasonable. Like, if you're inspired by someone, okay, that's a different story. But you have to cite literally everything? That's insane.
Well, that's the thing. And the AI is citing far more sources than the human mind can hold. It's not picking out like 1 or 2 or 10. It's going through millions of pieces, or at the very least thousands of pieces.
Yeah, imagine a reference for that. It'd be more than the art itself.
Yeah, no, yeah. Geez, it would be longer than the freaking Apple terms of service. But that's the thing. Like arguing that it's art theft. It's like no. Like they didn't come into your home. They didn't go into your hard drive. You posted this. Everything here is posted on some kind of social media platform where it gives terms of service that you surrender at least part of your rights to it just to be able to allow the website to host their stuff. If you had 100% rights to control over your image, they literally would not be able to put your work on a website ever.
I think Disney is still attempting that, but you're 100% correct.
Well, but yeah, that's the thing. But Disney can't prevent someone from using their art as reference. They probably can't even stop from putting it into an AI. Although, actually, on that note, let me see if I can. Let me see what happens if I throw in Mickey Mouse.
Oh no, don't play with Disney. They are the most vindictive company I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. I will never forget the stories I heard about copyright with them. You want to have a gravestone with Mickey? Nope. You want to be in a daycare where they put some I don't know, Daffy? Yeah, no, they're going 100% after you.
Oh yeah, no, and they own Spider-Man too. But like that's the thing. Like remember, Disney owns Marvel. On top of that, but there's certain degrees for what they can go after.
I agree.
Control
And
over
that's
your
based
image,
on what they're allowed
they
to get away
literally
with.
would
I
not
mean,
be able to.
companies are going to do that regardless of the morals behind it. It's just what they can get away with, basically.
Yeah, and keep in mind, like in those cases, like the gravestone, the child's room, like those are like physical painted things in a commercial effort. Like it's got a physical presence in something that is immutable. And I think that really gets you to take down a hand painted image of Mickey Mouse from your child's bedroom wall.
Well, I don't know. I just hate
As
Disney so much. I
I'm
bet if
sure
they
that I'm
could, they
sure they
would.
find.
But
I'm
you're
sure they.
100% right.
Yeah, I don't think they can yet, but I'm sure that they want to.
Yeah. Okay. Now you're scaring me. I mean, we're getting close to corporate world, literally involving everything because of government daddy. But
Well, no,
eh.
but here's the thing: like, it's because I can absolutely see a controversy in the not too distant future where someone paints an amazing Mickey Mouse mural on the wall, posts it on Facebook, and Disney sends them a fucking cease and desist.
I know Nintendo did that or something similar.
Oh my god!
But
Yeah,
suicide. Nintendo's old. They don't realize that pretty much is free PR, free advertisement.
yeah, and they'd rather have bad PR, good PR, because they don't understand. But that's the thing. Like, but now it's looking like art, like average artists or at least skilled or well-known artists, they're doing the same thing because like one of the tweets cited there who was calling it theft was Mary from Mary Comics. Like, dude, like, you post your stuff online, you forfeit some ownership rights. If someone else can get it off of the internet, like you gave up the rights for them to do that. If you want to have 100% exclusive control over your finished work, you can't post it online. Just physically, just go around physically showing it to people, and you're never, they never do that.
Well,
And
here's
plus,
the thing. Even physical, you lose the right. It's still public.
well, that's the thing. Like if you put it up in a physical space, no, I'm talking like you literally have it in your hand and you're just showing it off to people like they're freaking photos in your wallet or something.
Oh, so basically you can prevent anyone taking picture or scanning it. Okay, now I get
Yeah.
it. Yep. You put it in the
Like,
basement, basically.
yeah, you basically like put it up on your wall and then you invite people over to look at it and you make sure that they don't take any photos of it. That's about all you can do.
I mean, they're just
But
concerned that someone else can use it and they lose their job, which it's not likely, at least not yet. Because I see the technology, I'm looking on the side, and it's very impressive. But for production work, it's going to assist production, not replace production. If that makes sense.
and that's the key difference between the people that are embracing this and the ones that are rejecting it, because the people that are using like novel AI's diffusion, which I believe basically they took the people behind novel AI took stable diffusion and then shoved basically the entire collection from I think it was Danburu, which I'm not going to pull up because there's a bunch of not safe for work stuff on there. But they basically shoved a whole bunch of anime focused stuff into that, along with all the tags that are uh, used on Danburu already. And you can basically use that same AI to make Danburu styled art, which by and large, yes, does look very professional. But here's another example. Again, Rev calling out Shexio, who does a lot of not safe for work stuff, but also is known infamously for tracing quite a bit. So artists hate them, and from their work, like, they're all right. They're basically bargain bin, cute, sexy robots. And if you're cultured, you know what that is. And if you're not, you don't need to.
Hey, what's up
I
guys,
think it
Rev
needs to
here.
become culture,
Yes,
though.
this is yet another video about AI generated artwork, but this time we're going to be talking about the popular artist Shexio
I
and
can
the major
understand why people
backlash
are
they had been facing over the
denying it
past
and
day
then
or
also
so.
accepting it.
And while
Those
it's
who are
pretty
accepting it
serious,
either
there is a
understand it
reason
more
why
or they
people were
want to
so
refute it.
quick to jump
And
on
then,
his
of course,
latest
there's other
controversy to the point where his
exceptions
name
to
was
that.
trending on Twitter.
And I'm more in the
Shexio
camp of
has
this
a
is going to
very
be a tool that
controversial
helps people
history.
produce
They've been
production.
accused of routinely tracing
And
and
I don't
ripping
really
off
think
this
this is
large
going to
artist
replace
for a profit through his Patreon.
Sorry, it's not going to
And as
replace
this
human type of painting. Like, yeah, it's going to look very similar, but usually AI, at least at this point, maybe in 20, 30 years, that's a different story. But as of now, you can always see some type of error that requires a human to pretty much touch up. And that happens very often in, well, the animation industry, especially when they're trying to do those special effects, those 3Ds that look weird. Usually they're using some type of algorithm or something to pretty much have like perfect type of 3D animations with sound with effects. And sometimes they're too lazy to do every frame. So they do basically a little AI right there to make it look like what it is supposed to be.
Oh, actually, let me just go and chat here to Guts Berserk's thing. So after the AI takes all incentive to create, what happens when there's nothing left but AI using the same pool of random images, just copying people's styles at random, devoid of actual culture. Um, this is not taking away incentive to create. Like that's the thing. If there's a whole bunch of people out there who give up, okay, then they weren't worth it in the first place. They weren't going to make anything of value. They are no loss. Because here's the other thing. Why would you not say the same thing about when social media art got big? And all of a sudden, all these artists who thought that they were hot shit in their small pond were suddenly exposed to great artists from all over the world. And it just crushed their egos and took away their desire to create because they'd never reached these pinnacles and heights. They intimidated themselves out of art. This is not a new problem.
I call them weak then. Because, look, when I went to college, I actually did things that stupid, like learning how to do music, do theater. I used to act. And it's a tough industry. Like, if you can't handle that, get the F out. You will not make it. It is a tough industry. If you're not made of tough nails, get out. Period. Your ego's going to get destroyed. And that's just how it is, including art.
If you can no longer make money from your work, why do it? Even if you enjoy it, you do far less of it. This is not going to replace like commercial artists. or it's going to replace very few of them. Like, this so far has only been a threat to people who make their money off of art contests. And quite frankly, if it's that easy, if all who are you people seriously trying to tell me that an artist with years of experience and study can't make better AI art than an amateur with no knowledge or eye for art? I call horse shit. Like, if there's people making thousands right now off of AI art, go do it. Midjourney's like $40 a month. Go make thousands right now. I mean, if you want to stop this, that's probably the best way to do it. Because as soon as all of these contests start getting flooded by AI art, which they're all going to see as somewhat similar, then they'll start to put restrictions on it. But complaining about how it's damaging to the culture of the future is not going to stop this in the slightest.
You can't stop innovation.
And because here's the other thing. You could use the exact same argument to say that, well, digital art isn't real. Like traditional art, that requires material. Like, that requires a bunch of material. You got to pay for the paints. Your canvas is a physical object. Like, it's expensive to produce an individual piece. Meanwhile, with digital art, once you have slapped down the money for a half decent laptop and a tablet, and you've acquired either free software that lets you do it, or you paid for more advanced software, or you acquired more advanced software, you can create as many pieces as you have hard drive space for. Putting ad artists into a corner. Advertising artists. Some, I think, that's the thing. Like, when you say ad, I would think that's the bread and butter for commercial art. I don't see them getting screwed over. Some of them, maybe.
I don't think so.
But like, maybe some filler pictures in magazines. I mean, certainly thumbnail artists. But at the same time, I didn't have the budget to freaking hire. Like, if you look at my archive of thumbnails and a bunch of Yeetus's thumbnails too, like, that's done with Midjourney. I would have had to drop a couple $dozen easily to get an artist to make something in the amount of time it took to make those. And I probably wouldn't even get the same level of quality. Like, each of these pieces for an individual artist to make, this is hours of work from a skilled artist.
You also have to consider what the ad is going to cost to even place it. They're not going to take a risk. It's going to be high quality for very small amount of time. The smaller the time you have for your ad, the more crucial that every detail is correct. It's a lot harder to make an advertisement that's good than literally a small TV show. Even though, technically speaking, the ad doesn't get that much budget, but the stress is way more intense because every second matters.
Well, like, advertisements, they're so compact. You need to deliver so much information in a short period of time, both like objective information because you have to get the actual message across, and also emotional because every ad has to have some kind of emotional tone, even if that is very neutral and clinical. And then, like, ad artists, again, aside from the ones that specialize in kind of weirder, more abstract stuff, like, you're not getting a ton of precision. Like, these do not do graphic design cleanly and simply. You might get ideas for, like, that's the thing. But that's the thing. They'll get you started. But that's just another tool. You may as well say that templates or stock art But actually, no, this was another thing I came up while ranting to myself over this. How many artists found themselves out of a job when libraries of clip art became easily accessible to companies? How many photographers were out of work when stock photography came out? Did that stop photography? Did that stop artists from doing graphic design clip art?
It's just a
No.
tool.
It cost some of them the work, yeah. But that was it. It cost some of them work, and they either went under because that was literally all they could do, or they went on to do other stuff.
I don't think it hurt them. I think it actually improved them.
It,
They just had to adapt. Like, for example, how about you start taking photos for those libraries? It's just a different model of making money now.
yeah, but that's the thing. Like, it definitely hurt some of them. Like, I can't say
Oh,
for
that's
sure
true.
that absolutely none of them lost their livelihoods over that, or took a severe hit to their revenue, or lost a whole bunch of work. And not all of them could adapt, and that's always going to be an issue.
I'm such an asshole. Every time I think if you can't adapt, screw you.
Oh no, that's the thing.
Such an
I'm
asshole.
I'm very much like I'm in that camp too, because like these people only give a shit when it's their bread and butter being affected. Like these people complaining about AI art, how many of them were laughing and saying learn to code when there was talk of the trades being automated away?
Oh god, I don't even want to hear it.
How
Someone who
many
actually
of
trains people in that.
Yeah, like how many of these people laughed at other people's livelihoods getting automated because they thought that theirs was safe, and now this has come out and they're asking for sympathy and for the tech to be banned?
Oh hell no, they get no sympathy from me. You get what you deserve.
I think if adaptation is necessary. Like if all you did was train yourself in stock photography and then Shutterstock comes out, well, you're going to be selling your stuff to Shutterstock for a fraction of the price, or that's it. You're you're not gonna you're not gonna get to work. You got to find something else to do.
Yeah, you have to
How?
adapt. I mean,
I mean, how many event photographers have been put out of work by camera phones?
I don't think too much.
I'm willing to bet that there's more than a few wedding photographers that saw their stuff that saw their income take a severe hit.
I don't think so because my cousin actually does that. Didn't affect them because the quality from a regular camera, from a digital camera, from your phone, or even just a digital one that's not up to stuff is a huge difference, especially when you want that raw
But
file.
that's the thing. It's all about like the price point. Like if someone's doing like higher level stuff, then yes, they can't be replaced by a camera phone. But mid-level stuff, a bunch of those jobs did get taken away.
That I can see. Like, instead of pictures, what industry that I do know that was affected by camera phones was video. Like,
Yeah.
for example, like you said, a wedding. Usually back then, the weddings, you have these big camera dudes. That's what I call them, big camera dudes. I remember a long time ago, and they just going around with these big cameras. I knew some really rich people. And nowadays, you could just do that with your phone. You don't have to spend extra men for cameramen. There's always still the people, like individuals taking like high quality pictures, but when it comes to video, you can do that with a very small device, and it'll be just as good. And that's because of Apple. Apple has a lot of like AI software, which goes back to our
Yeah.
thing
Well,
here,
no,
AI to
actually,
make it look better.
another thing in the photography, retouching. Like retouching, filtering. Like tons of retouchers lost work when freaking Instagram filters came out, or like even just more recent automated, like just one press and it'll completely do a simple retouching job on your face. It's not as good as a professional human actually doing it, but it's good enough. Good enough to
I
satisfy your
mean,
potential client.
they can complain all they want, but Photoshop was able to do that before these filters come out. Even in like 2010, if I remember right. Literally
Yeah,
have a blemish
but the
tool and all
difference
that.
but the difference is like having to open up Photoshop, upload your stuff to Photoshop, know how to select the tools, and then do a basic auto filter versus
Even in
you
like
literally just
2010, if I
press.
remember right. Literally
Yeah,
have a blemish
the
tool
difference
and
Okay, you
all
got a
that.
point.
but the
It's too
difference is
convenient.
like
I can see
having
that.
to. Yeah, sorry, for some reason my my Odyssey thing keeps on filtering stuff in, but the difference is now you can just take the selfie and then edit it on your phone with one press of a button. Whereas before there was a more involved process that you'd probably get a second person involved in.
And AI is involved.
Absolutely. AI is absolutely involved in that kind of stuff too. These people weren't complaining about that. They weren't decrying the technology and calling for that to be banned. It's only when it
I'm pretty
starts
sure
to
they were
affect.
complaining.
Some of them might have been, but most of them didn't care. As for, like, Gus pointed out, trades can't be automated anyway. A lot of it was factory work. A lot of people making their bread and butter in factories, people saying, like, oh, you're going to have your jobs automated away, learn to code. So,
Yeah, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Like, I give a good example. I love the McDonald's one. The reason why McDonald's still has employees is because it's difficult to automate flipping those burgers. Everyone keeps telling me it's easy. I even had an argument with another professor until I had to explain to them, okay, so how are you going to make this so-called automation work perfectly, reliable, and not kill your employees? And who's going to fix and maintenance them? You remember the McFurry? How many times did that machine break down? You really want to
yeah,
rely on
the
that shit?
the
Come on.
McDonald's ice cream machine, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
go,
Where's my
yeah,
burger? Sorry,
yeah.
repairman's not here.
McDonald's. I'd like some fries. Sorry, our fry machine is down right now. Burger and burger then. Our burger machine's down right now. Chicken nuggets. My chicken nugget machine is down right now. Is anything down right now? We still have tap water. That hasn't been automated yet.
Well, technically speaking, I just have to open the sink. But yeah, that thing is offline right now in the fountain machine. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Yeah, Montana Black. At the end of the day, the idea won't be original. Machines can only copy. I would challenge you to find me one piece of artwork or anything made by humans out there that you can call truly original and is not some kind of derivative from someone else's idea. You won't find it. Like, I was
Yeah,
taught
it's
this back in high school art. There is no such thing as a truly original idea. And humans getting their inspiration, they didn't come up with all these ideas from the ether. They weren't instructed by divine power. No, 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 no. They looked at other people's work and they looked at nature. That's how they got their ideas. They are poorly copying other people's work and nature and mashing it up in such a way that they can believe it's original. But it's not.
yeah, it's a concept of knowledge versus understanding. Like, sure, you know it. The understanding part is the hands-on experience. It's your way of expressing it.
Like, look at all media in the past 10 years. What the heck would you say is original? I'm willing to bet it's just stuff that you don't personally know the sources of.
Yep, guts. I wasn't a technician in food factories, but I just knew from my experience with some automation I've worked in. Like, look, machines are awesome, but they tend to break down often. And that's why humans are still required. There could be a day that we could be replaced. That's true, but that's like in 200 years. We're not close.
I,
Too many people are exaggerating it.
but that's the thing. Like, there's so many complex, adaptable, and variable circumstances. Like, to truly automate something, the amount of training you'd have to put into it, and then on top of that, the mechanism itself. Like, a human is incredibly versatile. Like one individual human taking up the space of one individual human can not only do literally everything required to make a McDonald's operate, but they will also transport themselves there.
Oh, here's another factor to keep in mind. Uh, AI requires a lot of training that is not real world experience. When I mean by real world experience, I mean like literally physical. Like Google's already doing this right now with their AI. Yes, they can train the AI in this simulation world, but there's going to be limitations in the simulation world. Yes, that's how it learns originally, and it can compute literally billions of times. But in the real world, that kind of computing is limited by real life time. So the AI has to make those decisions. It can't just rush the time unless you want to have issues with a robot mistiming thing, especially being realistic to the real world. So humans still learn faster if you want to say the following. Can a robot learn faster than a human if they're both given the same cycle? Of course, the human can outcompete the AI. We're not there yet. That's the issue with AI right now. It's a big limitation from AI, how realistic it is in the real world. That's why the Boston robots took such a long time to develop, and they still require static input.
But beyond stuff needing maintenance, like let's say that we do hit a point where like AI art is vastly widespread. Humans are constantly craving new stuff. They will get bored.
And I think that's a good thing. You should get bored and then do something.
Uh,
That's why we're here in the first place.
like that's like even if AI art was mass generated, used by everyone, people would seek out something done by human hands.
I mean, think about it. Handmade versus made from a factory. And let's be honest, most factory stuff is better than handmade. Most.
Yeah, it really depends. Like, because here's the thing: if you're going to make money off of art, and let's be honest, this is why most artists are actually bitching. Like, they're not really concerned about all this high level, oh, it's bad for society, it's bad for creativity, stagnation. No. They're concerned that they aren't going to be able to make money. Your skill as an artist does not matter when it comes to making money. You simply have to find a client that you can satisfy with your work. That's it. There, like,
And
I
more
will guarantee you
importantly,
right now, like, if you have been doing art for a while, I guarantee you right now, there's an artist with worse skill than you that is making more money than you because they found a client and they are appealing to that client.
yeah, the experience. When I used to sell art, it is literally the experience, especially if it's a very personal type of experience. I've seen people pay literally tens of thousands of dollars for a stupid fake, I mean, sorry, real signature. Hint, hint, you want to make sure the person signs it in front of your face because a lot of these art places, they lie about the signature all the time. But that one signature is a difference from a $500 painting to a $10,000 painting.
Now, a bunch of the high end stuff is money laundering, but like, there's people doing like $5 commissions right now, just crapping stuff out en masse, and their skill is probably not as good as many other artists, but they're meeting their clients' needs.
I think that's awesome. I mean, look, I'll be honest, art is just too expensive for certain people.
No, and then Ivan, exactly. Like if you're willing to draw furry porn, you will like, and you can draw it even remotely passably. There's no end to your clients.
Oh God, I just realized something. The fairy community is probably really happy because I heard from RG, uh, RG Raging Golden Eagle.
Yeah.
They are pissed off the artists that make it because they made so much money out of that. This pretty much replaced their job. So yeah, this is replacing someone's specific job. So All
But
right,
that's the
sure.
thing. That's yeah, and no, actually, Novel AI is straight up working on a subset of their program. Like, yeah, Novel AI Diffusion, who does the realistic anime stuff. Yeah, they're also working on a furry one that's currently in beta. And yeah, that's going to eat away a shit ton of stuff from low skill artists. And furries do have a shit ton of money. Like, to quote a Red Bionicle in a stop motion animated short, if they could afford a $3,000 fursuit, they could afford a $10 pipe bomb to my house.
Holy shit, is it that expensive? I thought it was just a cheap costume.
Oh no, fursuits are stupid expensive. They have a shit ton of money.
Holy shit, that's what I call dedication.
Yeah, no, like furries, like they shove an obscene amount of money into that kind of stuff.
I'm like, good for them, I guess. There's an industry growing thanks to that. I
I
just
mean,
don't
like
like
they're
the
probably
creepy shit.
they're probably keeping a whole bunch of costume designers and crafters employed. Like if you want, like let's just say, if you want to make money off of your art, good money, furries are your ideal clients.
I feel disturbed just thinking about it because I have so many people that I know who are artists, and
Not like,
not one of them that I'm aware of did furry porn.
they're
But there's a
not.
possibility if you're telling me.
No, no. Most artists, at least once in their life, if they've wanted to make their money solely off of their art, have had to draw furry porn at least once.
I should text one of the artists I know personally. Hey, you ever made furry porn? She's gonna kill me. She'd be like, I gave you 3 personal pieces. It's gonna go south really quickly for me.
Yeah. But that's the thing. So like it's gonna eat away a whole bunch of people who they just want their imagined character to exist somewhat. Like
But that means it didn't work hard enough. I'm gonna be straight up. They just did not work hard enough. Like, look, it's awesome the art, but if you're telling me the AI is beating your work, period, you suck. All this low quality people who just got started, amateurs, or they've been doing this for 20 years and never improve. I'm sorry, but here comes natural selection in the form of human innovation.
and like I'm sorry, if you're making your money off of art contests, like you'd almost have better luck trying to win the lottery.
No, I don't think so. There's a
No,
lot
no,
of
no.
ways that you can tell. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Maybe yeah, exaggerating perhaps, but here's the thing: an art contest, like they come out very rarely, so you get very few chances to do them. And unless you're just hoping, like it's a crapshoot because you are hoping that your art is the most appealing to the judges. You have no idea what your competition is. You might have absolutely no idea who's even judging your work, so you can't customize your work to appeal to that person. Like mood, moment to moment, you don't have any power over that. And you'd have to spend how many hours of your time making a piece to submit it to a contest, and you have no clue about the metrics. At least with a lottery, you know what the win-lose conditions are and what your odds are.
I'm pretty sure
And
they'll adapt.
that's the thing. Like I just don't think that art contests, if that's your sole way of making money, I don't think that's a very smart way to make money to begin with.
Oh no, I 100% agree. That's something that usually is like a community event, and everyone's just there to network, learn, and hey, you may get lucky, you may win. And of course, it's like you said, if they're saying specifically no AI art, there is a way to tell. And it's the same thing they use with deep face. There is something specific that the AI does that is very noticeable that another AI can detect, but not a human.
Like yeah, no, like most AI art, if you look at it with a somewhat trained eye, you can tell.
even if it's touch up, I can go even deeper
Yeah, even
because
but
the
even
AI does something that even if you do all the touch ups and you notice all the obvious spots and even the most unobvious, how it's generated somehow, I don't know how the computer knows this, is some method it can tell. Not sure
no,
how. And this is the technology they use with oh shit, I shouldn't say it. Let's just say big deep pocket organizations use all the time.
actually, Guts actually brought up an interesting thing that was actually part of a controversy here. Yeah, Kim Jung-Gi
Hey,
died
what's
this
up?
week, and someone fed all his work into an AI to make a Kim Jung-Gi specific AI art generator. People are fucking pissed. I
Why
don't
would they
think.
be pissed at that?
Well, I think that what they'd be more pissed at is that he's asking for credit to credit him for making the program.
Wait, I don't get it. Well, let me look on YouTube.
So
Man, I don't see anything wrong with that. It's like a tribute, I guess.
that's the thing, like an homage, a tribute, but people getting pissed. Like, admittedly, I'm not entirely understanding, and I've seen. So, like, maybe we can look through the comments and see what they say.
I mean, if someone passed away recently, I can understand they're very sensitive and they just, anything that they don't understand or they think it's not part of their legacy, I can see that. But I see this as a tribute, in my personal opinion,
Yeah.
rather than a insult.
Well, and then here's the thing: like creating lifeless imitations after 2 days of RSS and demanding people to credit you is absolutely despicable. Like, he's not. He's saying credit, please. I'm sorry. Is please a demand now?
Yeah, but just entitled bitches. I'm sorry. I can't
Yeah.
stand this entitlement. It's just people who want to have, I guess, brownie points or some shit like that. Like, look, he did work.
Like it's the thing. It's
Why not
fucking.
give some credit?
That's the thing. It's
It's a
like it's.
tribute.
That's the thing. Like, this is fuck. These comments. Some of them are like this is virtue signaling by the people who claim to be against virtue signaling.
I can't understand that. I can't compute that.
Well, keep in mind, you have a whole bunch of people who claim to be anti-racist, and then behind closed doors, they're extremely racist. So,
Oh no, I understand that pretty well
yeah, no,
because I
but
see it rather than hearing it.
so you get all kinds of complex thoughts, but like this is the thing. Like, now is right. Hey, what would it be like for he made this well and released it while the dude was still alive?
I can think of something worse. Just make furry porn out of it. Why not?
Well, no, that's the thing. You probably could make furry porn out of this, but just kind of looking at these low res images, I'm willing to bet that actual Kim Jong Gi work would be superior to this because I've seen some of the man's work, him drawing it, and it's incredibly detailed, but it's also specific. You couldn't replicate that with an AI because an AI does not have all the specific intent behind it.
I 100% agree. I mean, maybe in a sorry, I shouldn't curse. Like 1,000 years. Okay, that's possible. But we're talking about now. Like now, no, just it's not available.
Uh, Even that's the thing, in 1,000 years, like what would need to happen is like right now it's working off of a neural network with a whole bunch of different weights to try to determine what pixels should go where, what little scraps of images should be placed here and blended with what other scraps of images. I think we need a fundamentally different AI structure.
I don't. I
I,
guess.
I think that
Yeah,
that's the
change
thing.
the
Like,
architecture a little bit, but it'll still be the same. It's just mimicking how the human brain works, or at least close as possible.
well, yes, to a certain extent, but like it'll need to be some fundamental architecture. Like neural networking in the grand scheme of programming is relatively new. Like it took us this long just to get neural networking.
I got some debates on that. And that's just because when it comes to hardware, we're very good at hardware, even though it's very fragile. A lot of us don't know this, but a lot of people who died who made CPUs, unfortunately, we don't know how to make them to a certain degree. And if we lose that template, that's it. Bye-bye. You lost so much functionality of hardware. And with software is even worse. Like, have anyone has noticed that your software is a lot more buggy than normal? Way more buggy. This was not the case in 2000. I know. Minus Microsoft. Screw Microsoft. Software did not fail that often at all, especially in the 80s and 90s. Even though I wasn't born in the 80s, I was around the 90s. And
Yeah.
software was excellent because back then they understood the principles behind it. And they had AI back then that I remember that I used to work on.
Well, a
But
couple things like number one, programming has gotten like programming used to be like hardcore nerd shit. The barrier to entry was incredibly high.
no, it
Nowadays,
wasn't. No, I don't know. If you were in the 50s, you're correct. But you're saying the 80s, we had Visual Basic.
but keep in mind you didn't have like smartphones. You had to look
Had a
up stuff
manual.
out of a reference manual because you didn't have video tutorials for everything, walking you through stuff step by step. You actually needed to understand the underlying structure of what you were doing. You weren't making entire programs by copy pasting someone else's code from online.
Okay, then I guess I give you points for that. Yeah, you're right. Though I would still say that it wasn't that hard to make your own program back then. Now, as complicated, I would agree with that. The more
Yeah.
complicated it is, for sure. Granted. But if you want to make a simple thing like print something out, simple calculations, even a very basic editor, that is doable back then by most normal people because back then I think they were smarter than we are now.
Um. Hmm.
I know there's a debate with that.
No. Like that's the thing. I'm gonna say on average, yes, because like life was harder and you had to be smarter. Like the harder that your life is, the smarter you usually end up being.
I thought it was just TV, to be honest. I did a lot of research on that. Even though, technically speaking, TV, this sounds weird, but based on some articles and some books I read, thanks to TV, the IQ went really high. Like, it started going up every generation by like 5 or 10. But at some point, it started doing the opposite. And this is more correlation. It's not a causation because it's more of a, hey, let me see this statistics and what is related to this. So it's correlation. But there's a lot of factors with TVs helping people with that.
Oh, so I just want to address this thing in chat real quick. Regarding Kim Jong-gi, he uses no reference. He used his imagination slash memory slash creativity. You don't get to that point unless you have a photographic memory to begin with, which that is genetic lottery. You don't get to that point without going out and doing life study after life study after life study from real life reference. He did not stay shut up in his room his entire life and just draw all sorts of real life or technical scenes from memory without ever having sketched or studied. If you like, that is a huge part of the illusion of artists, and I despise it. They hide the hard work that it took for an artist to get to that point where they make it look easy.
That's true. I agree.
Again,
Same thing with programming.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, so, but getting back to it, yeah, generally, I think with television, like, keep in mind, there were plenty of people that didn't read before television. Like, and so basically, it television gave if it raised the average, that's because there were a bunch of people who ordinarily would have had very little stimulation aside from perhaps gossip, and they now had television. Whereas the people who
I can see
read,
that.
like, they would still read.
Also, I remember back then there was a lot of good educational stuff. I was like that nerd on history, discovery, anything related to science and just maps. I was like, I like this stuff. And now it's just storage wars, aliens. Like, excuse me? There's
Yeah,
aliens in history? Can I like go back to the history, please?
yeah, I know we've come a long way since the History Channel talked about history and the Discovery Channel talked about science.
I forgot what Discovery is, to be honest. It's the same thing with MTV, I guess. It's in the name.
Yeah, well, I think MTV, that's another one that technology apparently destroyed livelihoods, because like MTV got real big off of, well, initially music videos. I remember way back in the day when I was a kid that you had one channel. It was a very specific channel, and it was basically just all music videos all day.
Ah, good old times. I love those the channel when they actually played music. But hey, let's talk about maybe AI when it comes to music, because that's coming up already.
That is not just coming up, that is already out, and I'm in on it.
Oh, okay, then I'm probably a few months behind on that. But
Yeah,
I know
no.
the development of it.
Yeah, no, the program right now that I have is Ava, AIVA.
That name sounds familiar to me.
Probably there's a couple things online for it. Like, I'll pick one of the.
So copyright becomes an issue with that, and it has
no,
nothing to do with the
no,
art.
that's-
It has
that's
to
the
do
thing.
with
I made sure to drop enough money so that I legally own the copyright to all of these.
no. I'm saying, like, for example, I know this because I saw a YouTuber and then I research it. Based on your
it has to do
sample,
with
it could
I
detect
made
a
sure
completely different music, but the AI is not smart enough to know the tone color of it, and then it's gonna flag it.
Hmm.
Yeah, you gotta be careful, unfortunately, and
Well, no,
it's
but here's the
it's
thing, like,
freaking
this,
YouTube.
That's the thing, but no, it doesn't work the same way. It actually creates from scratch, like, a brand new MIDI track with original instrumentation.
Yes, but the problem is how the AI analyzes the music. It's gonna look at the pretty much the pitches, and if it has a very similar pattern to another music, it will auto detect that. Even though it's a completely different music to the human ear, but the robot can't tell the difference because of the sample.
Hmm.
I mean, just be
Maybe here.
careful. That's what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say.
Hey, look, if this is a live stream, if it detects it, at most it'll just want me to mute it for that particular section. Like, I've had it in Sea of Thieves, actually, where I just played an in-game instrument for a while without talking, and it flagged that as the instrumentation for the song, and I had to mute that particular section of the live stream.
Okay, as long as you don't lose it, because I'm like, goddamn YouTube, it's so unreasonable.
Yeah, no, this will be fine. So yeah, I'll just play one of the random fantasy wave tracks. Like, I've literally got 149 compositions here.
AI needs data to recognize the music from player. Oh no, AI won't create music from what you taught. A different note? Oh man, maybe I should scroll up and read from the start. Yeah, you're talking about basically static input versus dynamic. You had to give it a lot of static data, basically, to pretty much able to even recognize and even compute it in the first place.
Yeah. So like that's built off that one right there is built off one of the more stock effects. This one right here is actually because you have two options. You can either use one of their pre-built algorithm things, which you can then further adjust to like pick what key do you want it in, what kind of emotion do you want it to make. You can even customize like what instruments you want and some of the basic patterns. Or you can shove in a song and have it create a generation profile based on the song. And I would challenge anyone to realize what song this came from. Hint, it's from Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh, I love that game. Such a great game.
I'll be honest, that sounds basically nothing like a Shadow of the Colossus track.
Hold on, you were talking. I can't tell.
That's the thing, but like, aside from like kind of the melody motif that repeats, which tonally kind of sounds like Shadow of the Colossus, if you played that to someone who just listened to the Shadow of the Colossus track, they would have no idea.
Can I guess? That's the opening theme?
No.
Like, we know when you first start to play the game?
No,
Alright, then I'm off.
No, that was actually the final boss theme.
Oh, the final.
Yeah,
Yeah, you had to point it out to me, so you made your point there.
Precisely. Like, this is not something that is going to be picked up by some automatic algorithm going like, oh, that's clearly an AI song generated from this track of Shadow of the Colossus. No.
It has to be exactly, which is what Slade was trying to say. And my concern is, it's not going to be Shadow Colossus. It's going to be some random music or song you've never heard of. That is my concern, not the actual thing. Because you just change the sample note by just a few degrees, and the AI won't detect it. But the second that is similar to anything else, it will detect it. Which is, I don't know, there's a whole bunch of them on YouTube where someone just whistled, and whistling is the worst one you can do. And the AI is like, oh, it's this one. And you're screwed.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's complex enough, uses its own sets of instruments on top of that. And like, what I like about this one in particular is that it gives a full-on MIDI track, which I can either edit here, but really I download the MIDI track and take it into FL Studio and work on it further there.
It's a tool, basically, to make more music, just like the AI art that we had here. It's a great way to start, and you can start modifying it to fix any things that seem odd.
Precisely. Like, to do something like this from absolute scratch, like, would take like easily an hour, if not longer. And that would be if I was very well versed in it.
Matter of fact, I can easily think about how to use this to help me when I used to make music as an amateur, mind you.
Precisely.
I make one theme song, and I just modify the tone color and some parameters. There you go. And then I have somewhere to start on it, modify it. It's going to increase my production dramatically.
Like this one, Matt actually kind of grabbed this one to work on for Chaz a little while ago. It's still in progress, but this is actually based on a Dragon Ball Z track.
Oh, let me know when you're playing it, because I have to like turn on YouTube to hear it.
Yeah, it's playing now.
Oh, let me hear it.
So yeah, like it's kind of like if you heard the original, it would be vaguely similar, but you wouldn't mistake one for the other. Honestly, I'd be more worried about when it comes to an AI picking stuff up, or even really a lack of originality or creativity, would be existing sound sample loops. Like
Which
back
many industries use over and over. Look at the rap industry. Same damn beat every damn time.
precisely, like same default drum loops that you'd get packaged with FL Studio. Like I remember, like I used Magic's Music Maker to animate some animation soundtracks back in the back many years. And then when I was looking up music online, I came across someone's original track and I recognized the sound loops. And I was like, "Oh, they're using the same software."
Same here. I can recognize as well. I'm like, oh, come on. And a lot of times it's from the composer that did it 20 years ago. Still there. Just being rehashed and regurgitated many times.
So, like if anything, AI is probably far more original than a lot of like this existing software that like I don't see any complaints about that.
You have a good point. It is more original because literally it's not thinking like a human.
No, and that's I think part of the other thing, and this is where personally I've been actually jealous of it, is as I mentioned earlier, the fearlessness of AI art. Like many artists, like they'll get into their own heads and they'll get intimidated. AI does not give a fuck.
I'm looking at it like this. It doesn't have the thought yet, but if it did, it would.
If it did, then it would be a parameter you could adjust. I mean, technically, you can actually adjust it already. Like Midjourney has a bunch of parameters for how wild you want it, like you're willing to let it go.
Oh no, I'm talking about like very advanced AI where it actually has a way to talk emotionally. Like at that point, yeah, it would have feelings and it would be fearless as well.
And I mean,
Robots are
someone
very logic based, extremely.
like you basically have to program emotions specifically to slow down and make a robot hesitate on purpose. Like someone might do that, but I don't think that anyone trying to deliver a product would.
Yeah. And let me see. I'm reading from Slay because he got some good stuff. I can tell he knows a lot about AI. Oh, he did a project, so that could explain.
But no, I
To
found
understand
the
the frequencies. Actually, that's a good question. Is it using frequencies or samples from musical notes? I would assume
it's
it's musical notes because you told me MIDI, which is
yeah,
more of samples.
no, it's right here. I'll pull it up on the screen here.
Oh, I'm already scared with AI with DNA. The monstrosities that it can produce. No, thank you. You want to see an alien? I'll imagine AI can do it.
um oh no, honestly, given the complex okay, let me put it this way. AI sorry, like DNA is here. I can actually pull up a visual example here. So I'm going to go to Google. Okay. Like just Google's homepage right here. I'm going to hit F12. Like, like pull up the source code here. And like even then, like I'm trying to find like imagine the source code behind Google. Like all the code that goes into that algorithm.
I seen it when I used
Yeah.
to work on some of their project, which I can't say too much about.
Now, how
Um,
many individual letters do you think it takes to write that source code? Like just spitball it.
you want me to answer or the chat to
Yeah,
answer?
you answer it.
Ah, okay. Depends what year we're talking about. So let's say before, let's just say just Google in general, 1994, I think is when they came out.
No,
The
I think
source
no.
code,
Modern Google source code for the algorithm. How many characters?
oh, very little. I wouldn't be surprised if it's less than 10,000.
Okay.
And that's very little. Because
Human
most of it is,
DNA is 3 billion.
you're going to need a lot of computers for that.
That's the
Probably
thing.
quantums.
It would literally be able, it would be like tens of thousands times easier to create an AI that made a search engine than to make an AI that could make DNA that was remotely functional.
I think I understand what Slay's trying to say. I don't think he meant like the human DNA, but like very simple type of creatures, which that is something that we're doing in today's technology.
That's
But
just
humans, not really. Too
the
much
no,
to
like
compute.
that's the thing. Like at most, there might be a microbe that we might be able to work with. But as things stand, not creating anything from scratch, we may be able to modify something existing to create a somewhat viable alternative, but no, we're not going to be able to like make an alien like with something that is completely not understood. Like you'd be more like the Cronenbergs from Rick and Morty, if anything, and that's even assuming that they'd come out alive.
Yep, definitely. I'm just thinking about it like this. Like maybe in 100 years we can get something close to that if we get better with all with analog kind of computing. And heck, quantum is already here. The only problem is that we can't keep it at sub-zero.
Yeah, but
But once that is accomplished, that's a different story. That's the only like major hump we have as humanity when it comes to technology.
mm, yeah, it's just
Yeah, the
the
computing
difficulty
power
hurdle.
from quantum is dramatic. When I
But
really mean it,
at the
it's
at
dramatic.
the same time, like I'm concerned about kind of overprocessing because keep in mind like what we tend to overestimate what we're going to get in the future because like they were expecting all kinds of amazing advanced tech and that seemed entirely plausible back in like the 80s and 90s. So like there's some stuff that's going to take us by surprise with how much it will advance, and then there's other stuff where we are grossly overestimating the potential and how complicated such a thing will be. Case in point, cybernetics. Like that shit, like actually having a mechanical thing plug into your nervous system and give you tactile feedback. Like, we are nowhere near at the level that is expected of us according to, the pop culture and scientific guesses of the past couple decades.
Kind of. Because I have to do more research on it, but I know some case studies with people with prosthetics where they can simulate it. But the problem is that's physical. I do remember an article in Japan where these individuals are paralyzed; they can't move at all, but they were able to use a robot and it uses a physical like connection. It's a very invasive. Like it actually is inside their brain somewhat, and they're able to move the robot. But I don't know if they can feel it. If they can
Uh,
feel it, we're kind of somewhat there already.
it, that's the thing. Like, being able to move it, like I've seen example where they had a chimp and a robotic arm, and they hooked up a bunch of neurodes to read the chimp's brain, and by training with the neurodes, they were able to make it so that the chimp was able to control the robotic arm as though it had a third arm. The brain adapted to that.
Does it give any output to the chimp? Like
Uh,
pain, for example.
no, it wasn't giving feedback. It was purely one-way communication. But like the chimp could see what the arm was doing.
Okay. I mean, that's different. Like, basically, what you're describing is tactile. That's a feedback. It has to be like an output.
Yeah,
No,
I think that
so, yeah.
the other thing, like, I think eyes are perhaps the biggest thing. Like we thought we'd have artificial eyes by this point. Our artificial eyes suck. Like they're better than nothing, but they're you're not making new eyes from scratch.
Yeah, they're very easy to trick. I can't say shit about it, unfortunately, but they're very easy to fool. And I want to go back to Slay when he said biocomputers versus quantum computers. No, I'm pretty sure quantum computers will be better than biocomputers because technically speaking, biocomputers are analog computers. Same principle of analog with the human brain, technically speaking. That's the whole purpose of analog. It's very similar to humans.
Let's see. Right, you know what? I wouldn't be objected to take callers. Like so, yeah. I'll post the link in the chat and then take a quick trip because gotta take a quick piss, of course. Yeah,
Oh,
professional.
me too, believe it or not.
All right.
Oh, it's so
So
funny. Somebody mentioned TFM, and I remember when you first told me the name, and I was like, you trolling me, right? Love that dude.
yeah. All right. I'll spam the link in the chat real quick. If you guys have something you want to talk on AI or AI art specifically, come on in. Yes, I finally figured out how to use StreamYards. And yeah, we'll talk on it for a little while yet. Be right back. I'll see
All
who
right.
joins up.
Unfortunately, I need to do the same thing, so I'll be back as well. All right, I'm back. Are you there, Great? Guess not. All right. Anyone has questions for me? Well, Gray is using the bathroom.
All right. So I'm gonna see who pops in while this is going. Wait for OK Lord to get back because.
Wait, you don't hear me?
Oh, I hear you. I hear you now.
Oh, okay. I
Yes.
thought I was muted.
Yeah. No. So like this is one of the other things, one of the limitations of AI art, like especially for the uses of concept art, because like I'm working on my own kind of IP right now, and so I'm building up like the visuals of the world by using AI art. Because by God, if I was to be this demanding from an actual human, I'd either be paying by this point, I'm sure thousands of dollars to get the results that I have gotten, or I would just be the worst sort of monster client for them. Like, I do respect an artist's time. I realize I'm going to be paying hourly like double digits. Like I'm not going to be paying someone $5 an hour to produce decent quality artwork. I'm going to be dropping like $20+ an hour if I want something of decency out of them.
I mean, it's gonna save a lot of money, and then once you have an idea, you give the artist an outline, and then you can get it polished like that.
Precisely. Like that's where I see like it lowers so much of a barrier to entry for designing the idea. Like this is going to be the tool of the art director, which is going to be able to really smooth the communication pipeline. Because I can see tons of art directors who like, they don't really know what they want, but they have an idea, trying to punch in the words and then try to show that to the artist to get a general concept. I looks like Mohammed Al Saeed's in, so we'll bring him in to talk about stuff with the AI. Welcome, Mohammed. No, can't hear you just yet, so I'll keep talking while you figure out your audio. Oh, you there?
I would love to talk to him. He seems to know some stuff about AI.
Now he's in the StreamYard, so I'm just not sure.
Nice to see you too. And
Ah, there we go. Now we can hear you.
yeah, well, StreamYard. Okay.
All
So
right.
about the AI of music, like I said, it is impossible simply because you need not normal computer, not normal AI, because you need something that can create in multiple ranges of frequencies. That is why when I say it is impossible, it is the same as creating a DNA. It is the same. Why? The normal stuff that I am speaking is a random possibility. For example, if you asked a human being, I want a collection from A and B and C. That is your age. Create anything is possible from this. So of course you will make first the unit A, B, C. Then you will get the rest. You will get A, B, A, C, and the opposite and such. To achieve that in the computer in AI, it takes much long time than what I am speaking now. To achieve it. That's why the random possibility made the AI itself, because AI needs a lot and a lot of processing to such a normal thing, like how we do it in Blink of Eye.
I 100%
That is
agree.
why the more ranges you are adding, the more time it will take.
But here's the thing. The
So
reason
by
why
creating
AI
the advancement of technology,
Sorry, go ahead. I think there's a lot of lag, so sorry if I
okay, I'm
talk over
listening.
you.
Yeah, Mohammed, are you listening through the YouTube video or are you listening through the stream?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Sorry, no, go ahead,
Listening
Mom. I
to the
didn't mean to
StreamYard.
stop you.
No, of course, if you want to stop for asking, feel free.
So basically,
Okay,
what I'm getting from
so
you,
let's make the possibility.
yeah, there's definitely a lag on
Okay,
your
go
end,
ahead.
Mohammed. So I'm gonna go ahead. So sorry
No,
if I'm
go
talking
ahead. Go
over
ahead.
you. So basically, what you're talking about
No
is
problem.
has it already been computed? If it's already been computed, you can give it a lot of options as long as it's already been pre-compiled in a way, then it's gonna be quick. But like you're saying, when you're talking about modifying it to a completely different parameter, like a new option, then yeah, it's gonna take a lot of computing power. A lot. And as time passes, as we get better
And
hardware
not
and
only
worse
that,
software,
yes, not only that, but because someone made this argument about creating the series, mathematical series. Normal one added 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 and continue to the infinity. To solve this, he said the computer, like for example, the highest, strongest computer AI now existed is one of Google.
Google.
He
Yeah,
said
Google's
to
pretty good.
achieve, yes, to achieve the highest compiling to it to give a result of giving me all the random possibilities of this will take 200 trillion years.
Well, here's the thing.
That
We're
is
talking
the range.
about clustering now. Like if you cluster that, it's dramatically lowered, which is how AIs work. You have to
No,
have
no,
a
no. We are
whole
not
bunch of
talking
different
about
clusters.
clustering. We are talking about giving a possibility random possibility. Like 1 plus 2 give me 3. If it writes 3, it's achieved. But no, it is going to continue to give it all. That is why AI without a range or a limiter will never achieve this.
Honestly, not really
That is why
sure.
they are trying.
Ah,
Okay,
I
wait, is
get
this
it now.
making? All right, well, I'm I'm unfortunately stumped. So
No, no, I understand what he's saying. So I agree with what you're saying if it's going to be a binary type of computing. Now, when I'm talking about analog, I'm talking about dynamic. Because here's the thing about AI. The reason why AI is so specific is because almost every single AI that we have computed at this point, especially with software, relies on binary. And we know binary is very static. It does this, then this, then this. There is no exceptions. And if there is one, it's going to be some nanoparticle, if you know about that. Literally, a nanoparticle hits some bit, and now it turned from a 0 to 1, which happens very rarely. And that's why your computer crashes sometimes when there's something going on. But that's exception to the rule.
well, no,
What I'm
okay,
referring to
so
analog.
Yes.
Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
so I think what we're getting into is
No,
yeah, like if you're going to say have a chess AI, that can be binary because the number of potential moves at any given time in a chess game are very low. But they could not do that
no.
for the game of Go because Go just had far too many chess moves to pre-compute and to understand all the possible moves. They basically had to invent a neural network kind of AI in order to make a successful Go AI.
I can
Yeah,
see
but
that because it's
let's make
known
for your
positioning.
example the chess. Mohamed, my name Mohamed.
No, no, go ahead. I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, no. If you asked about my name, or is that wrong question?
Well, I think Ray
Anyway,
was just explaining what he thinks about the how it is. But I'm basically talking about
yes,
the
but
computing.
about chess game. Yes, about chess game itself, they made two AIs for it. The AI to win the game. He lost over 10,000 game before he achieved the first win. That is the first AI. The second AI was a copy from the data.
Yes,
The two
but
AIs played against each other.
but that AI was foundationally different from the AI that learned how to play Go. And yeah, it had to lose a ton of games, it had to analyze a ton of games. Like you don't just make it. Well, I mean,
Yes,
with
but
Chet,
when you are talking about AI, it is about cloning itself. You are
Hold on,
cloning a
Mohammed.
machine. So
The
every
li-
there's
experience is
multiple
nothing.
kinds of AI. Not every AI operates the same way, and they're broadly categorized into binary and analog. And analog is more commonly referred to as neural network AI, and it can handle far more complex questions than standard binary AI.
so
Yeah,
Mohammed,
but
let
for
me
so you note
explain.
the AI itself, you are saying that the binary. The binary is nothing. It is like our language. We are talking to each other. Binary is nothing more than the language. You are giving the IC. The IC here is the integrated circuit. Integrated circuit is the mother of all software data. It is the thing that made us go to software. Why? Because it gives the data. If you are saying 0, 0, 0, 0 gives what? Gives 0. For example, if you are talking about the AND circuit, if you are talking about the NOT circuit, 0, 0 gives 1 in the other side.
Okay, but here's my
So
question to you.
you
What
are
about
summarizing all
analog?
the data to specific code. Yes,
Hold
it's
on, Mohammed.
Analog here is not existed. It is 0 or 1. 0 or 1 is basically the
No,
data.
no, no,
What is
no. I'm not
0?
talking about
0
digital,
volt.
analog. Analog is different from
Yes,
digital.
digital. I am talking about the digital analog. Digital analog. What is the difference between it and the binary digital? The digital and the analog.
Hold on,
Analog
you're
work in
thinking too
AC.
detailed. Let's make it more abstract. Think of it like this when I'm referring to analog. Analog
I am
has
giving it
more
abstract here. I
errors.
am giving it the short one. Look,
Yeah, but I want
I am
you to
trying to
think of
give
it
it the
like
point of
this.
view. Okay, I am understand you. Okay, let's make it this simple. Digital works by two possibilities, 1 and 0. How to understand 1 itself in reality? 5 volt. How to understand 0? 0 volt. That's it. The
Yeah,
future
but
of
that's this.
0 or 1 gives cuts from it. Like if you are talking about 4 bits, you are cutting the 5 volt itself to 4.
Okay, no,
Those 4,
you're not understanding what we're getting at. Look, it might take a second for YouTube to update for you, but look at the screen there. This is a neural network AI. These are all weighted probabilities.
and they all translate it from the core. What is the core? All this data is translated in the end to this. So no matter how much the data is, at the end, data will not change because everyone designed it, the place itself, designed the machine, work all of them by one language, a simple language. The simple
Not
language is the
assembly.
mother of all machines after binary.
No, no.
A simple language.
Assembly is used to help us communicate in binary. It's not native to the
No,
machine.
it is.
But
It is the mother of all machines. Any
no.
machine that you are programming in a factory, like for example, you are
Hold
making
on.
the new.
Hold on. You're confusing a human language versus a computer language.
No, I am talking
Assembly
about
is
the
a
computer
low-level
language. I am talking
programming.
about the
And
machine itself. Assembly, assembly translate the everything. How I design the software of the first things, the first codex of, for example, Intel, the microprocessor.
Correct, but I want you to think abstractly. You're
like
thinking way too detailed. Let me give
you're
you an
talking
example.
specifically about you're talking about the hardware. We're talking.
To understand everything, you must design it to be supercomputer, which means you must understand the hardware of it. You can't design it software. It
Okay,
is
yeah,
impossible to design
but the
software AI
problem,
without specific
whatever your
machines.
result is, does not end. Wait, like yes, it ends in something produced in the binary ones and zeros, but that's not what you look at. Like you don't look at cat and think, oh, that's 0 1 1 1 1 0 1 1 1 0 1 1 1 0 0 0 0 1
I
1
am
1 0
AI.
1.
I will look at it like that. If I am
No,
the AI,
no, it doesn't.
I
The
will
AI
see it
does
like
That's
not
that.
look
not
at it.
humanly possible.
No, the
No,
AI
I
does
am
not
seeing it
look
like that
at.
because I
Yeah,
understand the frequency. Every color
Hold
is a
on,
frequency.
Mohammed. Hold on.
like
Let me
look,
just clarify
you're gonna
this.
have to stop interrupting us, or I'm gonna have to mute you. Okay.
No, I am trying to understand you guys. Maybe the delay makes it
Speaking,
like I am
yeah.
talking to you.
If there's a delay, you have to wait until we stop speaking, not cut us off mid sentence.
No, you are stopped.
Okay.
So let me explain, because I understand what he's saying. You're just stuck in a very specific detail, Mohammed. Like, I want you to understand this concept. How accurate is a binary compared to analog?
The accuracy is low.
Very low, right? With analog, but can it compute more?
Yes, if you added it, thanks to technology, yes, it is advanced. But the accuracy, no, it is lower.
But
That's
hold
it.
up. That is the power of analog computing because it can make real, true, random mistakes. It is very difficult for the core architecture to make a design and predict it versus binary. Binary is like 100%. The exception to the rule is literally a nanoparticle hitting your registry or bus. But with analog, there's so many variants, you can get true randomness. And thanks to that, using this architecture to design the AI to do whatever it's going to do, it makes it more random. It's not relying on a prime number. It's not relying on a preset seed. It's actually relying on the environment, and it will be very different. It's thanks to this erroring and analog that makes it possible to act like a human in the far future. But once again, we're not there with the technology, but we can get there as accuracy increases. But we don't want that accuracy to be 100%, because then the computing of that facility is going to have issues with the seed, generators, and etc. So that's how the computing is being weighed differently with the architecture of the AI. As you can see here, you can see the different layers. You have, looks like it has like 2 generations here. You got 1, 2, then it's weighing it. If you have an analog weighing it, it's going to be more random and more true. Versus where your statement, which I agree, it's more predefined. If you give it a set of things and you can predefine it, you will know the outcome if you're that smart. But with analog, it's going to give something completely different no matter what at this current level. And as time passes by, it's still going to be that case, but we have more options to make it closer to what we want, like a human.
Okay, I agree with what you said. It is much more true. But for example, what I'm trying to prove here is that yes, it is understanding everything, but you have to understand that digital also had errors, which here it is under the basic understanding. Like for example, I said 1 is 5 volt. In the past, 4.3 is equal to 5 when to the computer. That is why accuracy makes it much more better. The problem here, range itself is widely huge. You are not, for example, I give you a correct series mathematical, and it takes way much time to solve it. In the analog system, you have much more problems because first of all, you have to adjust everything manually. You can't adjust it
now.
in software because simply
For
it
now.
is much more problematic. Are you talking?
No, I'm just
Maybe
saying.
the time
Oh yeah,
delay.
sorry. You have a delay, so it's hard for me to agree with you. Yes.
Okay. For here, it is about the analog problem. Here is about the understanding. If you are in digital, which is the most accurate thing, 4.3 equal to 5, then how can you assure that it reads every digital byte right when it's about all changing, all the system is changing? First of all, you have human problems. Secondly, the machine problems. Thirdly, the AI itself programmed to understand specific codes. These codes will never ever be same. Because simply when you are giving it in IRL life, in current, in volt, you have volt loss, count loss. These two destroy the entire signal. That is why we in communication engineering and such, we create the filters, we create the amplifiers. Why? Because we want the signal to return or restore the signal to its specific. Now, that voice that comes to you is not the real one. Why?
I,
Because the AI took the signal to process it and transform it in a code. That code lost its signal due to the change.
I think you're
Return it to
taking it
you
too
in receiver.
literal, Mohammed.
What?
Like I get what you're saying, and here's the thing: we're talking about abstraction here.
That's the thing. You're not. What you're talking about, we'd probably refer more to as compression or decoding. That's different from the AI that we are talking about in this particular
No, you are
circumstance.
talking about the AI creating music. Creating music, you are giving him as a mathematical series here. But that series is called frequencies. You have what human hearing from 20 to the max. What is the max of the frequency of human?
I think it's
Okay,
like
but
80 something.
okay, but here's the thing. But the AI is not going to look at every single frequency of hertz. It is going to go, all right, here's the 12 notes in an octave. Which of these 12 notes in this octave? And then it will further restrict it by the key. It's not going to go through all 22,000 hertz for every single note.
Actually, that is what I am trying to tell you. It will go to that. You are
No, it
teaching
doesn't. It's
all the
not.
notes.
It's not
Okay,
coded to do that.
that is what I am telling you. It is not coded, but like the mathematical series. If it gave 1 plus 1, it will be correct, but it will read all. Then will give you the answer. That's how
But
it
it
works.
doesn't need to read all. Why would it read all if it's not programmed to read all?
Because the machine itself need to process everything. First, analyze, then give.
Mohammed, you're thinking way too detailed. Like we're like I understand what you're
It is
saying,
not way
trust
to
me,
detail.
but we're talking about abstraction here. Like the audience has no clue what they what's going on now. But I do, but that's not gonna
Like that's the
help.
thing.
Like I get what you're saying, but it's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about an abstraction where it's easier to understand. Most people have no clue what we're talking about, and that's perfectly fine, but not for the show, if that makes sense.
it's like, and
I
honestly,
agree, but
like I
I'm
say, if
trying
they're
to
coming,
clarify here the point. It is AI creating music will happen. Okay, let's make it like it happened. Okay,
like it
no
did, like
matter how
literally,
much
like I could
possibilities
create a
will happen.
song. I could create a song right now, right before your very eyes, made from this algorithm. You can see it happen. So it's not like it's impossible. It's not like it'll take forever. It'll take a couple minutes at most.
Yes, it will take a couple minutes because it took the time. We are now at the advanced era. I agree, but also you have to make sure that the possibilities are close because the more notes you give, the more time it will take. You're saying
Hold
now
on,
minute.
Mohammed. You're getting confused how the software works. It's already been pre-compiled. You're just giving it an argument, not a parameter, an argument. It says parameter, but reality is an argument. It's already been predefined.
It's
That's why
not.
it's
It's not
so
making this
massive.
stuff. It's not making this out of absolutely infinite possibilities. It's going to be within a certain range of probability defined by what key do I want this in? What tempo do I want it at? What kind of emotion? There's a whole bunch of set parameters that cut it down from the unending infinity. The same way as if you're going to make a note, you're not going to pick from the infinite spectrum of human hearing. You're going to pick from a very narrow range of notes and a very specific number of those notes. You're, I could do this thing
Yes, but
infinite
like I
times. It
say,
would
it
never
is
give me a note at 22,000 hertz. It would absolutely not.
right. But also, you have to understand this point. Between 20 hertz and 21 hertz, much more frequencies.
Hold on,
Between the
Mohammed.
1000
You're
and
not
the
getting it.
1001, much more frequencies. This is the print,
Okay, but the AI
like
doesn't
frequency
care
print.
about that. Why does any of that matter?
Like Mohammed, let me
Because the
explain.
sensor itself is designed to understand the music
No, no,
gives
no. That's
much
not
more critical
correct.
frequency.
It doesn't
No, no. Okay,
understand the music. It's just replicating notes.
Mohammed,
Yes, it will
you're
replicate a note x equal 1000.1111.
no, no,
Y
Mohammed.
equal like for example, you're playing the drum.
Maybe the stuff you work with does this. This software that I'm using does not.
Engineering, and I understand that stuff to a certain degree. But we're talking about abstraction here, and it's been predefined. The reason why an AI requires so much data, which is what you're referring to, we're not saying everything in existence. We're not putting a parameter saying from this hertz, from the lowest of human audible detection, from the highest is what it's scaling. It has to have a copy of something that has already been predefined. Just like the music that he was playing from Shadow of the Colossus that was modified by the AI. It had a predefined amount. The only thing that Gray was able to do is give it an argument. I know the app says parameter, but it's actually an argument. It's already been predefined. So imagine, instead of it saying 20 to 80 the max, it's already been predefined with a set of notes. It's not using frequencies. I know because it's using MIDI, but the MIDI is going to reflect audio, if that makes sense.
Yes, I agree. But like, look, what Gray gave as example, I am going to use it like the chess. Like I said, it lost many battles. It got much AI knowledge, but at the end of the day, it limited itself
Well, it
to
has
that
to be.
knowledge.
Well, it
Yes,
has
it
to
has
be.
to be.
That's how it
But
works.
the start of the first thing the AI will do was that. Then by experience, he got all the detail. So the
Well, that's
next
called
AI,
generation.
yes, a generation. But here, the AI generation took, like, for example, what Gray give is now is just a generation of AI, multiple generations.
Yeah, we're
The
definitely.
what I give right now in
I
private
think
chat,
we're definitely hitting language barriers here too. Like, this is
I
exceptionally
think
hard
so
to
too.
communicate. We're coming at this from different points, and the language barriers. Like, when we say generation, that's not necessarily meaning what he sees, because the word generation has like freaking how many different meanings in the English language by now.
True.
no, I am talking
Uh,
about the generation like the family.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
the
yeah, that's
thing.
exactly what
Like,
we're
there's
talking about.
okay, but there's generation as in the family. But if you're talking about the AI and we're talking about an iteration of the AI and the AI is generating a song, like, generation means so many different things that it's very easy. We're not like, we're all speaking English, but we're not necessarily speaking the same language here. That's making this very difficult.
I agree. Look, I am trying to simplify it again. I am sorry. It seems to be a little hard.
Oh, I just did your research. We're not talking about this technology. This is more like voices. We're not talking about voices. We're talking about MIDI. MIDI is a predefined frequency. This is not predefined.
Okay, now you get what I am saying.
Yeah, I get what you're
Look,
saying now, but the problem is that Grey Ghost is talking about MIDI. It's not talking about the frequencies. I get what you mean by frequency, and that's a lot more difficult to make it like a human voice or an actual instrument without using a sample. But we're talking about today's technology that is possible.
like for example, like I said in the comments earlier, the CGI in animation and such. You don't need an artist to make the anime anymore. You need to take the first page and the second page, and the between will be done by the AI. For example,
Yep.
like the multiple frames of changing.
Yeah, because it's easy. It gives the AI a predefined in a scope. It's not too
Yes,
broad.
but you have to understand that to get that AI, there is a lot of data to make the differences for changing. You make a character move, how it moves, the degree, the shape, the definition, the frames, if each frame requires a specific matter. All these
Now, I
to
get what you're saying
create by
here.
AI.
Uh, we're
Okay,
not
okay,
talking
I am now
about
hearing you.
we're not talking about how to generate it from a engineer perspective. Like, for example, what Gray is producing is already been predefined. Whenever he puts something there to make something pop out, it's been predefined. Maybe it's learning in the back end, which most likely it is. That's how it's producing. But the end user is not providing it. And you're trying to explain to the audience that to do this requires an insane amount of data, insane amount of computing. And you are 100% correct. It literally takes a country of computing to do all of this. But you have to remember in software, the AI has a lot of bloat, a shit ton of bloat. Bloat as in a lot of unnecessary things. As it gets refined, we can start from that new generation of seed and discard the old information. And then we go with another generation, another seed that has learned, and you throw away the junk data. That is the back end that we do in AI. The end user has no idea that has how it works. So I get what you're trying to say. And if you want something completely new or generated, you are 100% right. But we're talking about abstraction here, not the process that literally a lot of people have no clue how that works.
Yeah,
But you're 100% right. I agree what you're saying.
Let me see if I can maybe put this in a bit of a visual, like to kind of demonstrate this particular neural network. I'm actually a really big fan of this guy. Because like he'll make software, like he'll make a game basically from scratch, and then he'll make an AI, a neural network AI that learns how to play it. So this right here, he is training an AI to play Jump King.
Okay, back to the video. Okay, so the next big step is to make all the levels.
Seems
I've done
interesting.
one level, but there are like...
I love that YouTuber. Yeah, he makes some good stuff.
Yeah, so yeah, let's skip ahead to where he's actually doing the iterations. So here we go.
Sexy. If I was allowed near them. Anyway, those
Here
who
we
live
go.
on get all nasty and then babies happen. Then we mutate the babies just for fun and whammy, we got a new generation.
I have not seen
instead of
anything.
lust. Keep that up for
It'll
a
take a
while and
second
you
to
got
catch
some
up on
smart
YouTube.
boys. Okay, let's assemble the
Okay.
squad. Oh. Okay, so adding sound effects is potentially a mistake. I think I'm gonna mute
you gotta
the
go on
audio for the
YouTube,
rest of this.
like,
One thing that is
switch.
great for finding all the bugs in your game is running 500 players
Okay.
at once doing all random shit. I was planning on pretending that they didn't exist and just editing the video around them, but this is really gonna fuck up everything, so it's bug fixing time. Again,
Yeah. Like I can probably share the screen here on StreamYards to give a bit more live action stuff when you see.
Okay, I'm seeing it.
Okay, cool.
okay, that wasn't too bad. Let's try running that again.
Interesting.
Get it? Because he's old! He's old now! Hey, that's better. Okay, so the plan is we're only going to let these guys have a certain amount of moves. That way they can optimize, say, the first 5 moves before they work on the next 5. Also, if a player reaches the next level, then I'm just going to have all the players start from that point instead
you
of
give me
running
the
the whole
link of
thing
it?
again and again and again.
The
because that'll take
YouTube
forever,
video
especially
itself?
with 44 levels. Finally, before I let these boys fly, I need
Yes.
to define the fitness function, which is what we use
Yeah,
to
I'll
tell if a
post it in
player
the,
is good
the
or
YouTube
not, so we
chat.
know who to kill. This is fairly simple for this game. If up, good.
Okay.
If down, bad.
Thank you for the info.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. There are some levels where I need to add further incentive because the ideal path goes up and then down and then up again. And the guys will never figure this out because they will refuse to go down since we've taught them that down is bad. So to fix this, I added a little collectible.
But
which
from
when
my
the guy collects, it will be
understanding,
rewarded.
like
that way, it'll be
the ultimate
encouraged to actually go
randomness
down and get it.
would be if
Any
he
more
was
questions?
trying to
No?
get it to
Great, because I couldn't
solve
hear
the
you even
entire
if I
thing all
wanted
at
to,
once.
which I
But
don't.
instead,
So,
he only has it do
it's go
5
time.
moves, then picks the best from those 5 moves, and then works from that base next. And so that way, it
That's
severely
more
reduces
way you
the
add it.
power.
Yes, you are limiting it to very, very limited stuff. I am seeing his video. Look how we do. Also, the minute of 9 minutes. At 9 minutes, exactly for the video. From my view, look, he redlined the entire map. That because the AI must understand the possibilities. All limited. But even this limit is too hard to compute. So
no,
the
that's-
AI
Yes,
will
I
give.
agree. I
minimum-
said that in the beginning, Mohammed, of the stream. So you may want to go back there because I was referring to physical world versus virtual. This is a virtual world where it can compute and it has to. There's no choice. But the second you remove the the virtual world, and it has to do something physical, as in learn it physically one time, the computer just cannot do it. It needs thousands of computing, and I agree. But we're talking about pre-compiled. This is pre-compiled that Gray has been doing with the art. It's already been predefined with its limited scope. Developing it, you're 100% right. It's very difficult, but it's already been pre-compiled. The one that Gray's using.
Like if I was trying to make AI art from absolute scratch, like, and just had it do randomly, it would be absolutely insane. The amount of iterations before you got anything even resembling something visible. But that's why you feed in a ton of data to limit down the possibilities. That's what training an AI is all about. To limit down what it recognizes as a viable possibility by using other artworks as, well, a basis. And that's why you need to spend millions, thousands, however extended amount of time training a piece, training a program in order to understand what the heck it's supposed to be doing.
Oh, sorry,
Okay,
Grace,
that
I was
is the
complaining
meeting
about
device.
video's audio in the way.
Okay, that is a meeting point here. What I am trying to give you for here, it is about the possibility that it can create anything from scratch. But you are talking about replacing the creative whom the human being. It cannot be existed. That possibility is too hard to achieve. Why?
Well, we're talking
Because
about that.
art specifically is about random possibility.
Yeah,
Art,
but we're
we
not
are
talking
all
about that though.
That's the
We're
thing.
already giving it
We
a
have
scope.
not been talking about random possibility since the start. You're the only one who has, and we've been trying to tell you that we're not talking about the same thing this whole time.
no, I'm not. I am talking about is random possibility of to replace AI, replacing the artist. It means he must be creative as the artist.
Okay, but the artist does not come up with this stuff purely randomly out of the ether. The artist, too, needs to work from existing notes. They need to work from existing understandings of music. Even the first musician, they were trying to imitate sounds that they heard in nature. They didn't just come up with everything on the fly.
Okay, but for here,
Hold
you're
on,
taking,
Mohammed.
for example, let's make it much more simpler. McDonald's, you
No,
are talking
Mohammed.
one from McDonald's, you are talking one from KFC, you are talking from multiple places. Then you gather them up. The AI will create something from them. That is the entire point. Exactly
Mohammed,
what I am saying. Even if that happened, he will not be new artist.
hold on, Mohammed. You're way too detailed. I want you to think of it as a grand picture, a big picture. We're not going to the details of the picture. It's the extraction. Google the word extraction. That's what I mean. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the nitty gritty of how to program, develop it from scratch to how it is.
I think you mean abstraction.
Yes, abstraction. Thank you. Sorry, I suck at also in language, but I try my best.
And creating something new.
Well, English is my second, so feel free.
Yeah, like, that's the thing. Like, objectively new, look, nothing in this world is objectively new. And an AI that created stuff from absolute true randomness would be absolutely useless for these purposes. That's why it is trained. It is trained in order to restrict its amount of randomness so that it creates something that's actually comprehensible.
Okay, I was talking about the collecting here, about the collecting of data.
But we're talking about predefined, though, Mohammed. We're not talking about the process of how it works, because the process is very complicated for most people to understand. We're talking about pre-process. I understand what you mean by how it's working, meaning how it's compiling, how it's processing, and we saw in the video, yeah, it takes a lot of computing. But we're referring to giving it a limited scope. We're not saying that it's going to replace the artist completely by AI. We're talking about someone using the tool to replace artists, giving it predefined decisions. That's what we're referring to. You're 100% right. It's very difficult for an AI on its own to replace an artist. That's maybe 100 years or 200 years in the future. But we're talking about technology right now. That is happening right now, as an example.
So, what I am getting say, like, you're using it as a cheating tool, for example.
Yeah, it's a tool. You can think of it as a cheating tool. It is the same
much
thing.
More better results.
Exactly. It's basically a tool.
Yeah, the same way
Okay,
that a
to
paintbrush is a
destroy
cheat.
this,
Like, the same way that a paintbrush is a cheating tool in over painting with your fingers. The same way that acrylic paint is a cheat tool over using water and freaking pigment. It's an advancement in technology that makes things easier.
I can agree on that, but simply, if you want to make, for example, like you want to make your own music, you have to understand that someone can create a algorithm. The
No.
stuff that makes you detect the similarity between musics
Hold
and
on, Muhammad.
such. For example, the paragraphs, the PhDs, all that under the algorithm. If you can
Muhammad,
create AI to make that, you can create the AI to detect this. And that's how you kick
different
anyone who
subject
uses a
though.
cheating tool.
But Muhammad, that's a different subject now. Now you're talking about how AI is detecting it, and then how to make it in the first place. Like those are two different subjects. You got to
Right,
stay on
and
one of
quite
them.
frankly, if you were going to talk about AI detection for that, right? Well, then quite frankly, you'd be able to make an AI that could detect anyone who ever took inspiration from a particular composer. Like, what's the fundamental difference between using an AI to pre-compute something and studying a particular musician extensively and taking heavy inspiration from their work? No artist in the modern era creates anything without studying artists from the past. AI is no different.
Yes, but AI will give you specific note. But here you can
Muhammad,
change the
you're
note.
thinking too detailed. We're not
Every
talking about
Yeah, and guess
every
what?
exact answer.
If I hit a key on the piano, it gives me a specific note as well. If I play, like, if I take a
Yeah, but
violin
that's why
and pick
they
a
make a
random
different pianos.
spot, if I grab a violin and pick a random string, yeah, guess what? Yeah, it might be random, it might be new, but it also sounds fucking horrible. We have long since mathematically determined what the perfect note sounds like. There is nothing to be gained from exploring the spaces in between established notes.
Okay, but here is the point. No matter the AI you give it perfectly, he will copy something
But
So
that's
will
what we're
he,
talking
so
about
do
the
exactly,
whole
so do
time,
humans.
though.
something exact, not
Yeah,
not the note itself. It can be the entire starter, for example, a
and
starter note
humans
from
also
another
copy
song from
things.
another language.
Okay, I'm gonna be very honest. We're getting in
Yeah, and
circles
that's
here.
why
We're agreeing on the same
we call
thing.
them
Like,
It's
out.
just different ways of expressing
yeah,
it.
like,
That's really
honestly,
what it is.
the language and honestly, it is about time to wrap it up. So I'm gonna say closing thoughts. If anyone has any final statements to make.
By the way,
Final
Mohammed, you're
statement for
doing
me
very
is
good. Keep studying whatever you're doing. That's a very good engineer perspective. So keep doing that. Um, but as a professor, you need to start learning how to look at things abstractly. You got to look at the bigger picture as well. It's good to know detail for engineering, especially electrical engineering, because every detail matters. But you got to consider that as well. You got to make sure you have two perspectives. You're a little bit too much in the detail part. You got to have some abstraction so you can explain it to someone. Because if you can't explain it to another engineer, it's pretty much useless knowledge because you have to share the knowledge. That's how our scientific and engineering communities work. Because right now, I struggle with you because you're too detailed. You got to have some abstraction, some way of a higher picture that I can eventually home down to the detail.
Yeah, and
That's my advice as a professor,
keep
okay?
in mind, like, we're dealing with this pretty severe language barrier here on top of everything. So, yeah.
okay. Well, good to see you all.
All right.
May peace be with you all. See you
Yeah.
later.
Peace out. Yeah. So, yeah. So, kind of got derailed for that last little bit there, but in general, look, if AI art is going to replace your job, you got to adapt. This is hardly the first industry that's had AI or automation interfere with it. And personally, I think that the possibilities for enhancing creativity, like, this stuff will give you results. and inspiration that, quite frankly, you'd have to spend hours digging through reference sites in order to get the same thing. Like, this is a database of reference, but rather than pulling it out from a specific artist, it pulls it out from a large number of artists. And you can iterate again and again and again. So I don't see this as the existential threat that I've been hearing about online. And quite frankly, if a whole bunch of cheap clients are going to be satisfied by this, then you're just going to have to figure out how to adapt to suit more expensive clients and do more specific work. And for fuck's
100%.
sake, and for fuck's sake, stop relying on art contests as some sort of metric of success. And if you think it's that easy to win an art contest with AI art, then get the cash before they start banning this stuff. Because quite frankly, if you're that hard up as an artist that you're complaining about AI art taking your job, you may as well go for the cash because you obviously need it.
Also, I believe this will actually be an improvement in the industry overall. There could be more work actually. I mean, I have to wait for the economy, but think of it like this. So many people who didn't have the ability to do this, like for example, your situation, Gray. Imagine being able to get the template that you need. Now you can hire artists cheaper, but the artist has more work because more people have the accessibility to do it in the first place. So we have to see how supply and demand works with that and see that maybe there are going to be more people who want that professional polish.
That's the thing. Like, we're going to have to see how this all shakes out and who wants what. It's possible that a whole bunch of low skill artists are going to lose their jobs. But quite frankly, is that really that big of a loss? Because that's like complaining that a whole bunch of people on factory lines are going to lose out to automation work. Like, if doing that one specific task that's replaceable by a machine is all you could do, were you really doing anything valuable to begin with?
That's a true statement. If you're not going to adapt, I'm sorry. That's just how the industry is. If you have a special skill set that doesn't adapt, but it's very good, no problem. It's not a concern for you.
I'm thinking, like, how many people worked for years? Honestly, I'm just thinking like some of the factories in China right now, where people will go for months, if not years at a time, and all they do is one component of a construction process. It's the equivalent of specializing in step 67 of assembling a Lego construction.
Oh, Hermit has a question.
Yeah, what you got, Hermit?
Where's my banana chips?
That's the thing. Like, if you're doing the exact same thing and not expanding your skills,
Like, ask for it.
that's the thing. It's
Like,
gonna.
if you're extremely specialized, is great. But now when it comes to simple specialization, like it's that simple, you're gonna get replaced. If it's something complicated, that's a different story. But this is simple. Just one simple line. Just do this one operation. Yeah, no, you're gonna get replaced very quickly.
And Hermit, you tried to hop in. Sorry, Hermit, I didn't see you there. I've only got so many tabs open at once. But yeah, we are wrapping up though. I do need to work in the morning, so unfortunately, I'm not making enough cash to handle it. But we can host another stream on this if there's enough for it down the line. We'll arrange something, but yeah. Any final thoughts? Okay, Lord.
The industry can bitch all they want. It's perfectly fine. I honestly believe I'm more optimistic about it. It's gonna make more work in the long run. In the beginning, people are gonna lose a job. That's true. But just like anything that has been automated, new innovation, new jobs are developed because of that.
And personally, I think that there's a lot more potential because previously, if you wanted to create what the AI would have to do, it would take a lot of time to search up a whole bunch of references and then do a whole bunch of edits to mash them together to create the same sort of visuals. It's faster and easier. I think that we're going to see a lot more daring artworks too. Because I think that
I welcome that.
I think artists are going to be more inspired by the AI to try things that they normally would have been too timid to do because now they can see the results without having to commit hours of their life.
And even people who don't know, like, I'm not an artist person. I'm more a logical person, but I have things in my head that I imagine, and I would love to use this AI to get close to it and then give it to an artist to produce it without wasting a shit ton of money. Because every revision can cost hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars. This is your revisioning right here for free, or $40, I guess, in your case, but for me, for free.
I think like 40 bucks a month, but like you're only restricted by, well, there's two speeds, but if you were just going to keep it on the basic speed, you'd effectively have as many revisions as you could request within a month.
Which is insane. Like, I get why people are panicking, but in my opinion, this is going to create more jobs than what it's going to lose. You just have to adapt. All right, but if you're too over specialized in a very simple thing, you're going to get replaced.
Yeah, sorry, Jim. Gotta close her down. Otherwise, I'd bring you on to talk about this. We got kind of caught in the weeds there. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We've fluctuated quite a bit with the numbers, but overall, very happy with the stream. So, play us out. Thank you, OK Lord, for coming in and talking AI for the past 2.5 hours.
Yeah, and I need to eat my first meal of the day.
Oh, jeez. All right. Play everyone out. Y'all have a good night.